Oh, sorry, that's no drop.
Have you prepared for judgment, unworthy?
These lands are ash and blood. And yet, in destruction, there is
I hope
beauty.
her like vibrant colors come through in game.
There is healing.
They always
in
are so
darkness.
dull in Smite.
There is hope.
Smite needs color. It needs like splats of color, just like pop, pop, pop. Things to draw your eye to. And she looks like she has some like bright greens and some reds.
Hello,
and stuff.
everybody, and welcome to
good
another
audio
beautiful
quality,
Smite
actually.
update show. I'm Titan Dandy.
What's up,
nice
Titan
to
Dandy?
see y'all again. And
He
we're
was having
looking
a hard
forward to
time the
talking
other
about
week. He was sending out some sad tweets. Hope he's feeling better.
10.4 the Lightweaver. Super excited to have y'all, and super excited to be joined by two people that y'all know and love, Aggro and Lermy. Welcome to the show, y'all.
What up?
Y'all
Super
are-
excited to be here.
Excellent. I mean,
Always.
of course you are. You got a new god to show off today, along with a lot of other things. We have a new crossover event with G.I. Joe. We have balance. We have all kinds of things to get into. And I think the best way to get into it is just to kick it right off. How about it?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Rock and roll. Well, the first thing we want to talk about is something that y'all, we talked about last update, and we're excited to kind of bring it back.
The HUD?
The HUD.
Nice,
The brand
they fixed
new
the HUD.
is coming back.
Good.
But there are some changes this time. Y'all want to dive into that?
Yeah, I think obviously we
Oh,
were
they're
very
gonna
excited
let
to
you
see
use
that
either
a lot of people
one.
Did really like a lot of
Wow.
aspects of the HUD,
Yeah,
but
I like that
had
a lot.
our bumps along the way, so to
Wow.
speak. So obviously going through a lot of different improvements
about
for
that?
the HUD and hearing that
They're
feedback
gonna
was
let
very,
you
very
use
valuable
either
for
one.
us, and we're very excited to be reintroducing it here in the 10.4 update.
I am
but
amazed
you also
that they're
are
letting
getting
that
a little
people
bit
do that.
more choice involved with
love
this
choice.
HUD. So now you can
Huh.
choose a toggle between the new and the old HUD in the settings. PC players will default to the newer HUD,
Yeah.
and console players will default to the older HUD. So if you're a console player and you want that newer HUD update with all of its flexibility and all that kind of stuff, you can opt
With
into
the
that,
HUD
but you
having
are
so
going to
many
be forced to do
FPS
it just
issues,
so
I
that
assume
you
that
can
having
ease
both
your way
available
kind
would
of
just
into
be
using it as you
twice
get
as
more and more comfortable.
problematic.
Yeah,
but
exactly. There's a lot
they
of really
seem-
good features in the new HUD, and we understand that everyone
They
wants to play the
seem-
game
wow.
as comfortably as possible. But
Even
we just wanna
like
make
some
sure
of the
that
higher
everyone
ups
can
said there
have,
was no
the
way they'd
experience
ever
that they wanna
do
have.
both.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. And as we re-release this, obviously y'all were there for the first time.
wonder what
like we mentioned, there were
Wow.
some things that we had to work through. But
Yeah,
we
they
did
had-
that because of y'all's feedback, and
They had to have put in a lot of work for
we're
that,
looking for
'cause
that
that was
feedback.
not the
As we
plan.
re-release, we're going to be continuing to look
mean,
for ways
good.
we can
That's
improve
great.
this new HUD system and
That's
make the game
fantastic.
truly an experience that you can love and enjoy.
If people didn't like the new one, they don't
continue
have to use
provide
it.
that
Cool
amazing
beans.
Feedback. Thank you for
You
what
know?
you already provided, and
But
I'm looking
wow.
forward to using the new HUD
I
again.
really
like
didn't
it.
Oh, me
expect
too.
that.
Yeah,
For
definitely
sure.
had some setups cooking that I'm excited
yeah.
to get back to.
The
for
map
sure.
right in the middle of the screen was perfect. Never map awareness was always on point.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think
saw
that's a great idea.
some really crazy HUDs that I'd love to see it in practice. That's all I'm gonna say.
Same. Gotta see those pro HUDs at you. So, all right, well, super cool. So from
Okay,
there,
super
we're gonna
cool.
dive into another exciting new
Super
thing.
cool, Dandy.
How about a G.I. Joe crossover event?
Ooh.
Huh? Let's
Super awesome.
let's take a look at that.
G.I. Joe Digital No, wait, that's not right. Wait a second. It is pretty funny that it is two need skills, which is kind of funny. It's kind of a fun Smite. I have no opinion on these, to be honest. I couldn't tell you anything about G.I. Joe. I just couldn't.
All right. Well, now that we've talked about that, it's time to get into the into the
Anywho,
business. Let's
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about some balance changes, shall we?
Little nitty gritty time.
A little nitty gritty
yeah.
time. All right. So we got the pros here, and we're gonna start off talking with some blue buff change. So let's dive in.
Are we
What happened to
making
blue
it
buff?
not
you want blue
bad?
buff?
Oh boy! All right, so we heard you, solo laners. We
Yep.
heard you. Since the change into year 10, we had to remove a little aspect of blue buff
I mean, it-
previously.
it is
to
objectively
incorporate
the
this
worst
other
buff in the
and
game,
So
and I'm not even
we
close.
understand that has been the feedback that we want blue buff to do something
Take
else other than give you
additional
mana.
true
So we got you,
damage.
solo laners. We got you. Now, when you pick up the blue buff, enemy lane minions hit by your damaging
Current
abilities will now
health.
take an additional 5 true damage. But that's not all. Enemy jungle bosses hit by your damaging abilities will take an additional 3% of their current health in true damage.
Okay.
And then, of course, you got the subsequent
a little
hits,
bit of helping
clause,
with clear.
as always,
Yeah,
when you have that
asterisk.
extra damage. So your King Arthurs
Try to
aren't doing
make
a
some
million
of the
billion
less
damage
viable
to
clearers
fire
maybe a little bit
giants
better.
and whatever. So,
Guess it just-
but
it's
yeah,
the same
Blue
for
Buff
everybody
does
though,
something
so.
fun now. You do extra damage.
Okay.
Yeah, I really wanted to, like Lermy said, losing that CDR component.
Specifically
lost
to
a little bit of
minions
interest
and
in
jungle
Blue Buff,
bosses,
particularly as the
though.
game went on. But it's
Okay.
hard to put
Sure. Why
really
not?
game-changing effects on a buff because they aren't guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And so if your buff gets invaded, if you're losing gold and experience, which you always are, but then you're losing a very critical actual laning component,
Yeah.
then it just starts to snowball a little bit too quickly. So we felt like this was a good spot
That's
to
fine
start
by
it,
me.
where
That's
it's
fine.
impactful in the early game, will help your clear. We might see different types of solo laners start to rise because they get this increased clear, but there's inherent risk involved in that because you might get your blue buff invaded.
Yeah.
And then of course the enemy jungle bosses so that it scales throughout the game and is
Yeah.
still relevant.
That's something that I think is really exciting because previously
Yeah.
Blue Buff kind of has never really scaled to that kind of level where it is
No.
so important in the late game.
Yeah.
So you could be seeing a lot more invades onto blue even into the late game, which I think is incredibly exciting with with this change.
Especially with it being right next to Fire Giant, I think we
yeah.
could definitely see some interesting fights there.
Incredible.
Okay.
Well, that is one spicy change, but not to
better.
be overshadowed by the next spicy change we're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
talk about.
Why did I tell you to take blue? I should have taken blue. So
All
I
right,
have to
mid laner,
start.
tell us what's up.
All right, well, we have game-wide percentage pin changes. Let's get into that.
Yes, let's get into that.
okay.
So, we've heard a lot of the talk about the state of the game and how fast
Weird.
people are dying. Obviously, something that
That is
we're always keeping a big
That's
eye
a
on.
pretty hefty
And we
change.
hear what the community is saying.
32%.
And we feel it in the
Okay.
same way that they are. And this is something that we really think is a good step in the right direction. We're interested in hearing community
Presumably
feedback.
that
and
will
once you get your
change
hands on it at PTS
pad
and once it goes
numbers.
live, if this is giving you the desired feeling that everyone is looking for. But percent pen being so ubiquitously available
Yeah.
on items
They
these days. it
did
is on a
32
variety of
because
items,
all
and we do
10%
like
pen
that it
items
is
are going to
more
give
accessible than it
8%
used to be,
pen
where
now, and it
before
makes
was
it
just
quick
one-stop
math.
shop.
8,
You get your
16,
Titan's
24,
Bane or your Obsidian
32.
Shard,
That's why they
and
did
you're done.
32.
Yeah, that's it.
That created a lot of power spike issues and power curve issues. We think that by decreasing the
20 to
overall
16.
cap from 40% to
Quick math.
32%, and then taking all of these 20% items and shifting them down to 16%,
See.
and all the 10% items down to 8%. So everything's moving down,
There you go.
but it's still the same
That's why.
value.
Yeah.
2 of the old 20% items will get you to the cap just like they would have before.
I know
Yeah.
too much about Smite.
And they're still interacting in all the same ways,
Way
but just
too much.
removing
Somebody
some
just
of this
put me down
penetration
already.
should address 2 things. Number one, late game death times. How fast people are dying, burst damage in the later stages of the game.
It's
against
embarrassing.
every character, because now there are a lot of auras in the game that give a lot of protections. Base protections are fairly high. This percent pen change will matter even against squishy characters.
Yeah.
But we've also heard a lot of feedback from tank players that they aren't feeling impactful enough.
Okay.
Once we get to the late game stages.
I mean,
The
that's
early game is
pretty
feeling
significant
strong, but
changes.
once they get to late game,
For
you
sure.
buy your Spectral, which we'll talk about, you
Like,
buy your
yeah.
other things, and they're still feeling like they
Oh,
take too much
that's a
damage.
big change to Smite.
We think that by reducing this pen cap, we can have them feel still impactful without adding damage to their kits, because that's
Exactly.
something
Got
that
it.
we've talked a lot about.
Yeah.
I think that overall, we are pretty happy with the threat that frontliners impose on backline. How threatening
Percent
via
pen
damage
probably just got pushed
warriors
back
and
in the build
guardians
as
are.
well.
We don't think that there is a huge issue in that space.
A little bit
right
more
now.
flat pen
Certainly,
early.
never perfect.
Push the
but,
percent pen back just a
we
little
don't
bit in
think
your
that that's
builds.
going to be a system that we need to really dive deep in at this exact moment. How can we make them feel more effectively tanky without making them too tanky in the early, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
of
we're
course.
very interested to see how everyone feels about this percent pen change across the game. But in testing, I think it's felt really, really good.
Yeah.
And and slowed down that late game burst by a noticeable amount.
Yeah, and we tried it in a bunch of different roles because
Yes.
we tend to move all around the map when we're playtesting, making sure that we're hitting every single
I
role.
don't hate
and
it.
So
I mean, one of the problems in Smite right now is there is too much damage.
Not so much impacting.
I don't think there's
the
anybody
damage
that would say
from
Smite doesn't
squishies
have
to
enough
squishies
damage right
or
now.
tanks to squishies. It's more so
Like-
that squishy to
like
tank
70%
ratio,
of the
making sure
gods
tanks
in the
are feeling
game can
impactful,
literally
not by their damage,
one-shot
but by their
you
tankiness.
after 30
And
minutes.
even in those
So-
squishy versus squishy engagements, the burst damage is is definitely noticeably
Yes.
affected
Okay.
by this type of change. So
For sure.
that's something we're also keeping an eye on, and you'll see some other changes towards that type of idea. But
Yeah.
we hear what the community is saying about late game burst damage against frontline and against backline, and we think that we've got a couple of really good plans in the pipeline in order to address that.
Yeah, and that sounds great. As a support player, for one thing, that sounds incredible because, I like being able to get in there and have these sustained engagements where
Right.
I agree. As a tank, I shouldn't be bursting down the back line, but being able to get in there and utilize my kit to either peel or to keep somebody still so that my damaging teammates can do what they need to sounds great. And even on those rare occasions that I play somebody squishy and damage dealy, having a little more time to survive so that you can do a little more skill expression. It's
I
not
wonder
just,
what
I
the
missed my jump or I didn't dodge this ability. I'm out of the
15%
fight. It's a little more time to express
what
that
dominance
skill
got changed
or
to?
develop
Doesn't
that skill.
dominance
I
get
guess sounds super good to me.
15%
So
from
I'm really
his
excited
passive?
and.
There's
It
just
gives
a couple
10,
more points to this. So
but
a couple of those
15.
exception items that aren't really the 20%, 10%, 5%.
Yeah.
Being Executioner and Glyphs is seeing a decrease in its
Is it
protection
20?
reduction.
Okay, so then
that
it's
includes
16,
Heavy
okay.
Executioner also going down by a similar amount. Demonic Grip is also seeing that, and then we have a couple of shifts actually
Dom
for Soul
isn't
Eater
affected by
and
the
Atalantis that
passive.
are no longer percent pen, and now they are just 10 flat
The passive
pen
is
each.
not affected by the
that,
cap. It
that
never
should,
has been.
cap us off real nice
Yeah.
and easy.
Cap us off real nice. Yeah,
changes.
so I was gonna say,
changes, there we go.
The 20 to 16 is Titan's Bane, Serrated Edge, Obsidian Shard, Karen's Coin, Typhon's Fang, Dominance. Like all of those are 20 to 16.
Yeah, so it went from 20 to
absolutely
16, but
crazy
it'll
the
still
number of items
overcap.
there. And
So
then
you could
the 10 to
still,
8, like
if
you
you
said,
had
the Crusher,
32,
Hydra's Lament,
with
Heartseeker,
Dom, you would
Silver
have
Branch, Veil Knight,
48.
Demon Blade. Like so many items getting affected by this.
I wonder if
it's a huge
Izanami's
change,
passive
but,
got affected.
like you said, I think this is going to be a really good direction. And obviously, I know how much y'all test.
Yeah,
I-
she has
I always see y'all
percent
in there
pen on her
doing tests,
passive.
So excited to see that. Excited to see the community get your hands on it and let us know what you think. Especially in PTS early on, and then as the
Presumably
patch goes
flat
live.
shreds
But,
didn't change, like
really
on
cool.
you.
So was there anything else we need to
But
get into for?
there's a couple characters
for
that
the
have percent
penetration, or
No,
you
I
think that
think
covers
that's
us on
I think
pen?
that's it. So we're gonna take pen, and we're gonna put it over here. And now I move on.
to this box,
To tanks.
kind of on the opposite side, yeah, to tanks. So let's talk about the tanks.
All right. So again, tanks have kind of been in an interesting spot, right? Where we want to make sure that they're feeling impactful throughout all parts of the game. So the
Yeah.
first
Yep.
part is specifically towards our soul laners, and I suppose our supports. If you really are feeling like picking up Tainted Steel. So one thing is that especially with the change to healing in the Season of Hope, we wanted to make
wow.
sure that our anti-healing options are
Wow.
still feeling pretty okay.
Yeah.
And so
Tainted
we actually
Steel's a
are
pretty
changing
good
this up
item
just a
already.
little bit to increase the healing reduction on this from 15 to 20, and then you also get additional sustain from this item, going from healing 100% of what you anti-healed
that's
to
a strong
120%
item,
of that
man.
anti-healing. So you're going to
It's
be
got good
feeling. You're not
upgrades,
only are
too.
you anti-healing more, but you're also healing more from that. So it's a pretty solid
That's
bump
a
up to the sustain of
beefcake.
that item,
That
where
is.
you might actually start feeling it now.
Yeah, with healing going down, stealing that healing doesn't feel quite as impactful because
Exactly.
the healing went down. So bringing that back up a little bit, I think, makes sense.
So you'll be feeling the stealing of the healing even more.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Got it. Super excited for that. I have a buddy who busts this item out every time we play Omnipotence, and he doesn't
It's worth
die
it.
ever.
Yeah, it does work.
So, all right, well, let's keep going down the tank line. Blessed Scepter, good old buff.
Yeah, this is the tier 1 of the new physical healer items.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit too expensive for what it was giving you. It was
Was it?
700. It restricted your soul lane start options a little bit
Yeah.
more than we would like. So that's just getting decreased by 50 gold. But the tier 2s are all
don't
going up
think
by 50
that's
gold
why
in order to
people
compensate
weren't
for that.
buying
That
it.
is
It's actually
very
one of the
specifically
best
for
tier 1
level
stat
1
values in the entire
conquest,
game.
Yeah.
Starting in solo with your solo starters.
I think it's just
and
hard
making
to
sure
work
that
the
feels
final
like
items
you can
into a
actually
build,
get the correct amount of
actually.
potions and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
I'm on the
Got it.
exact
Yeah.
opposite side of
A
this.
little bit of a fire sale first off, but they're making up for it in tier
Yep.
2. So super cool. Tainted Amulet also having a bit of a change.
Walking this back a little bit to our other talk from Tainted Steel.
That's
This is
true.
just the
So,
upgrade,
yep.
just
Yeah,
making it
we
the
just kinda
same.
Jumped
Yep.
through it a
That
little
checks
bit.
out.
So well, yeah, cool stuff to that. So Round Shield also getting a little stronger.
Yeah, Round Shield, again, kind of like Blessed Scepter, wasn't quite giving you enough, but instead of cost, we decided to just increase
Now,
the stats
Round
a little
Shield
bit on
actually
Round Shield
did
as those
kinda
stats
suck.
were not exactly wowing.
Yeah, a little bit of a polish just to get the shield back to where it needs to be.
Yeah, little more power for it.
And then Glad Shield kind of following the shield line.
Yeah, similar along those same lines. Glad Shield, is an item that has a storied history, to say the least. A lot of
Shield
times in
always
Smite's
make me
history
nervous.
where Glad Shield has been quite good.
Yeah.
I would not say that this is necessarily one of those times.
Fair.
And we didn't want to increase its offensive capabilities. That's something that we are very clearly monitoring and all that kind of stuff. So just wanted to give it a little bit more cost efficiency.
Yeah.
By dropping its cost,
Yeah,
and
that's
increasing
fine.
its health, just
It's
making
fine.
it a little bit more
Glad Shield just-
efficient for those gods
Yeah,
that
a
want to
little
buy.
more
It's like
bang
a, it's
for
like a
Yep.
nuclear
Super
bomb
cool.
at
So
any
continuing
time
the
that could
tank
just
line,
go off.
Archdruid's
You know?
Fury also getting a buff.
And this was an item
At
that
any
we saw a lot
time.
in PTS.
It showed up.
A lot
It showed up.
in the first patch of the year. We did do a
Oh,
couple of
that's
changes
a
to it in the
big
past
buff.
that, decreased its effectiveness by what I would argue is quite a lot. Scientific term.
Yeah, it's
So
coined.
we're doing a
30
little bit
base and
extra
40 plus
adjustment to
2
it to give
protects
it a
at
little bit of its
1.5
potency back. We're
and
not trying to
reduce
make
cost.
it, as crazy as it was when we initially
We're not
released
trying
it.
to make everyone have the worst day at their job or anything like that.
No.
But we are trying to make it a little bit better to increase, its chances of being picked up. So what we're doing for it is
Wonder what
decreasing
the
its
total
cost because it
damage
was a little
changes
bit
on that?
prohibitively expensive, and we're giving it just a little bit more passive damage in that component where you take damage and then you deal some back with your basic attack.
Again, as magical damage, not as
Yes.
Yeah,
True.
not
Not
as
changing the
There's a
damage
couple of
type.
characters
That's
that might be able to
magical.
utilize that
Yeah.
Still
pretty
magical
well.
damage. Not
Magical
true
damage.
damage.
Magical. Yes.
So-
See if it's viable.
It'll truly deal more magical damage.
Yep.
Don't quote
Yep.
me on that.
Oh,
All right, well,
boy.
cool. That kind of we're taking boxes, putting tanks over to the side. Now this box is just very, very individualized, very specific. Bloodforge getting a bit of a nerf.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bloodforge was kind of this for fun item for
Yeah.
a long time, and then it messed
Really?
around. And got a bunch of buffs,
And then it found
still
out.
didn't see play, and then it got a bunch more
Really?
buffs, and then we
That's
ended
what
up
we're
where
taking.
Bloodforge
Really?
is one of,
Really?
if not the most popular item in the
Yeah.
game right
Really?
now. We're just going
Power.
to decrease this physical power a little bit. That's still an item that we're looking at. A lot of this work for a patch goes in,
Okay.
and then there's a bunch of community discussion afterwards, and it's
Yeah.
like, we wish we could do that this very second, but it might have to wait
Yeah,
until
you gotta give it a minute.
bonus or the next patch or however
Well-
it works. But Bloodforge, for now, decreasing the cost, going to keep a close eye on it.
I don't
and
imagine
make sure that
that's
it's still not, an
changing the meta
outlier.
at all.
Got it. That
For
sounds good.
Bloodforge.
Yeah, you gotta love when something
Really
kinda gets
thought the
shadowed.
attack
Not
speed was
even
coming
shadow
right
patch, it's just
back
people are
off.
like, we don't care. And
Really
finally somebody
thought.
picks it up and they're like, this is
Thought they were just
incredible.
yoinking it right back
That
out.
happens
but
a lot.
Yeah, it
It
definitely
does.
does.
You'd be
Yes.
surprised.
So, well,
Gods
cool,
especially.
Cool. Yeah, right. Cool. So let's move on.
Okay,
Hocus
well.
Pocus into Mage Land.
All right.
Yeah.
Starting with Book of Thoth, getting a little bit of a nerf, actually.
Yeah, so we've been loving the build diversity
What?
that we're seeing over
Yeah.
in Mage Land, as you were
Yes.
talking about.
Mage Land.
However, when looking at the popularity of certain items, it seems like not all the builds have caught on. And there's still one that seems to be rising above the rest in terms
Huh.
of its popularity, and that is the library build, or
The
buying
library
every
build.
single
Lots of
item
books.
in the book tree.
Bookworm.
So our number one
Ha.
offender seems to be Book of Thoth here, which is one of the most, like you said it earlier, popular items in the game to buy as a mage.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we are taking back the mana. So we're not actually directly decreasing any of its power, but we are going to say, hey, you're not getting as much free mana for simply buying and stacking this item anymore. If you want
Yep.
to get that synergy,
That's
you're going to have to buy even more mana than
weird.
you were before,
Yeah.
or you're just,
Don't
if
see
you're
a
buying
lot
the
of
same
Book of
build, it's going to be a
Thoths,
little bit less effective
actually.
overall.
Right.
But that also goes
See a
for
lot of,
the upgrade as well
you
into
know,
Evolved
full 10
Book of Thoth, just
mid lane builds
decreasing
with
it
like
from
Deso,
1,000 mana
Magus's,
to
Doomorphs, Tahooties,
775
Myriads, oh my.
overall, depending on that stack value.
Yeah, well,
Don't
cool.
actually see a lot of thoughts.
I buy library build. Well, not really buy, but like definitely tone it down a little bit because people
Yeah.
be hitting them books, man. Smite, the game of readers. So next up, Tablet of Destinies getting a little bit of a nerf as well, looks like.
Yeah, it's similar again. Like Lermy said, we know that there's a lot of diversity in
Really?
mage builds right now, but this was a build that we still felt like, especially at the casual level, we were seeing a little bit more than we wanted to.
Yeah.
And its power level was a bit higher than we wanted it to be. So just a small damage decrease on tablet, also fixing an issue where it wasn't dealing quite the correct amount of damage.
a couple small bugs there.
Yeah, just a few
Little-
small
little
tweaks.
tweaks.
Shouldn't be super noticeable, I don't think, but now it is working the way that we
I am
intended
very
it to work,
confused right
But
now.
now dealing 0.1% of
I
your
am very
of your
confused right now.
mana per stack.
Got it.
And not 0.12.
Excellent. Now, that is the last of the items, but before we move on, very important for both of y'all to answer this question. Is a tablet just an old-fashioned book?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah, we literally were like, what is an old-sounding book when we were naming that
Yeah,
item.
that
This
actually is a
does have
Babylonian
big,
item, so it's the first
Great
Babylonian item.
patch
Right, which is
energy
very cool.
2 months ago.
I was just asking as a joke, and we got a lore drop. All right,
There you
I'll
go.
keep trying for that.
It's
All right, so we're
very
moving into gods now, and
weird
this one's gotten
for the
a lot
current,
of chatter,
like,
especially
Really?
since the
Neva
last update.
situation
You'd be
now.
surprised to hear.
Very
I don't think
weird.
I've heard anything about
I
this,
know,
guys.
y'all-
They're going
Y'all
to think
use-
you're serious. They're going to think you're
Y'all don't use
serious.
Twitter, I understand, but Aphrodite getting a few nerfs coming out of this crazy healing patch.
Okay,
What's
that
going on
makes
with
sense.
Yeah,
Aphrodite?
a few might be an understatement.
Yes.
That
I was
one would
trying to
not have
ease
made
them into
sense
it, but all right,
2 months
more
ago.
than a few.
So Aphrodite, had seen quite a lot of buffs to kind of get her ready for the Season of Hope with healing being decreased because she's one of those characters that really heavily relies
Yeah,
on
she
healing.
brought the heal.
But it
Decrease
turns out that when you buff
protection
Aphrodite in a bunch of
and
ways,
movement.
that she becomes the
I mean, the
number one most
protections was
winningest
literally
god
the
in every
most
single
OP
game of the
thing,
game.
so.
So that was something.
We'll experiment. We figured out.
So
Someone's
anyway,
got to be number one.
Yeah.
it was Afro, and she was the leading lady a little bit. So she had to take the spotlight for a
True.
second, but we're making sure that she's not staying in the spotlight because
Yes.
we
That's a
guys,
good
we
nerf to
understand
her,
that
to be
it can be a
honest.
little bit frustrating. So let's actually
That
talk
is the
about what's
most
getting
OP part
changed.
of the
Let's get
kit.
into it.
Is
First
the
things
passive
first,
part.
Kiss. This might have been the feedback that we heard the most, is that it's
Yes.
just giving too many protections.
Yeah.
So it's going down by 5% to her soulmate. Additionally, she's also giving less movement speed. So not only are you, the soulmate, less tanky, but you also will be moving less quickly, which is, not as fun for the soulmate, but good for everybody else.
Yeah, good
Yes.
for everybody else. Ooh.
Lovebirds as well is getting an increased cooldown by 2 seconds from 14 to 16, and we're also decreasing that CDR that you and allies are getting
Wow.
from 0.25 a tick to 0.2.
This is
And,
that's a lot
also
more.
the
That's a
heals
lot of
going up
nerfs.
because we also were looking at the healing
Okay.
of each individual healer that they were giving out. And Afro actually was doing a slight amount more than she used to by average. So we're taking that down just a smidge to make sure that
The combo of those
she's
nerves
still
is actually
obeying the
pretty,
laws that we have set.
pretty
Yeah.
decent
The
sized
laws of
nerves.
not being the most incredible
Probably
healer
still
ever.
viable,
Exactly.
but
Which,
probably
you
not
can still
getting
do it. I
banned
believe in y'all being the
anymore,
most
I
incredible
would
healer
say.
ever. You just have to work for it a little more
So.
now. So sorry.
Exactly.
Well, cool. So yeah, those are some big nerfs. Looking forward to that. Guan Yu next on the chopping block.
Yeah, Guan Yu, again, taking a look at a lot of these healers
Yeah.
that were heavily affected by the changes with the Season of Hope launch. Guan Yu,
The
when looking at
healing
healing numbers in particular and how his
of
win rate
Guan.
changed from, pre-healing overhaul to post-healing overhaul.
Really?
Guan's was one of the few heals in the game that
Is
already
that
functioned in
what's
the way that we changed
problematic with
every
Guan?
other
There's
heal.
gotta be a
It
Talus.
didn't
If they're
scale
gonna
off
nerf
of,
Guan, it has to
power
be
in any way.
Talus.
It only was just
There's
per level.
no way.
So with everyone else kind of being brought to his healing level, the buff that he got, and the new healing items, he was just ever so slightly overperforming. And we felt like this made sense to fit the overall messaging that we want to go for, which is we want everyone to be healing less, which he was,
Yeah.
She
but
was.
not by quite enough.
Got it. Well, that makes sense. Excellent, excellent. Continuing down the path, Chernunos.
10 healing
This is
nerf,
another
but
wonderful
no
piece of
nerf
feedback
to
that
the
we heard
fact
from
that
the
he can
community.
shred
is We're tired of
60
seeing
protections.
Chronos and Ishtar every game. And you know what? I'm only a little bit offended by that. But that's okay. That's okay. We're
There
listening.
is, in fact,
So first
only
up for
Kern and
Chronos.
Ishtar. That is true.
We had a lot of debates on what the best nerf for Chronos would be because
Yes.
he's one of those characters
Got a lot
that,
going on.
Nerf is
like
passive.
Ishtar, has really solid clear.
You nerf his
Yeah.
And is
passive.
really just good
That's
at
what you
clearing
do.
waves, clearing the jungle. That first
actually
wave
not
pressure
hard. You
that
just
he
nerf his
keeps is
passive.
pretty good, and he scales very well into the late game. But the place where he landed was that Shifter of Seasons, specifically Autumn
Got it.
Decay, is now only going to reduce physical protections because reducing both is, it's quite a bit of utility. When we looked at a lot of the other hunters in the class that also had this same style of protection reduction, it was only for physical characters and not for magical as well. So we thought that, okay, I mean, that's a good solid way for him to really only affect his damage and the other physical characters on his team and not so much benefit those other characters.
Yeah.
But additionally, that's not all.
It's not
We've also
that
just
important.
decreased that protection reduction by a very solid amount.
To be honest, it still
especially
shreds
early.
the same
early
at the
game.
end of
Max,
the game.
max rank
so
is
it's
more
not
or less the same. One
No!
protection is
That's
basically,
it?
noticeable.
Oh,
But
no.
this is also
That
something that we
can't
heard
be
from
it.
pro players,
It
where
can't
CERN
be.
has been really,
Guys, it's
really
just
popular
passive
for a long time
Guys,
now.
he does
that they felt
25%
like this was
bonus
a
damage
big
for
contributing
existing, which
factor,
means
so
he
hopefully this
out
opens
DPSs
up a
every other
little
hunter by
bit big variety
25%.
in the SPL in particular.
Excellent. Well, you love to
The
see
pa-
it or
the
hate to see
passive-
it if you're if you
passive.
CERN. But next up, I'm sorry,
pa-
we got an Ishtar nerf. It's
no.
kind of a nerfy shift though a little bit.
Yes,
so what's
exactly.
going on with Ishtar?
So Ishtar is another character that has really great clear. She does a lot of pros will say she's the second best cleared of all the hunters, right behind Izanami, which, wow, that's quite a jump to go from Izanami to Ishtar. But still, we want to make sure that feedback is heard. So we are adjusting Strike Shot, which is the first ability's first form, the circle lob shot.
Also gonna nerf the
bonus damage is going down at
which
rank
basically
1,
gives Ishtar 25% bonus damage in melee range. Basically like Surge.
At rank 5,
right?
which
the
a lot of
same
people
thing
are
that makes
not
Surge OP.
ranking this
It's
ability
the same
first,
thing that makes
but you're
Ishtar
doing
OP.
3 less at rank 1,
which is
where you're
Surge's
probably gonna keep it
passive
for
and
a lot
her
of that
1
early
too,
game where the
because she
clear is
basically just
mattering.
gets 25%
And that adds up
bonus
when you're
damage
talking
on
about
it.
the number of times that you're hitting over the wave. That 3 damage per minion as well, that's going to add up.
Yeah, it definitely stacks up. It's one of those
this
things where
is
it's crazy
one
how
of the
you look
patch
at it and you're like,
notes
ah,
of
3, like,
all
what's that
time.
number? But yeah, no,
Of
it
all
builds up.
time,
You
this
gotta-
will go
Numbers are
down as
surprisingly
one of
small
them.
looking, but they're big
For sure.
effectiveness.
Wow.
It's one
I
of the, it's,
speak very well.
It's like aiming a camera at something far away. Like you do a little bitty turn and it's like a mile. from
Wow.
you.
Exactly.
So
Oh, this is
it's
tough.
absolutely crazy. So let's move on. Now we got a buff to talk about. Shock getting a little more muscular, huh?
Okay, so
He's
we talked
cooking.
about Afro and Guan and how we we're taking a close look at them.
Oh, this hurts a
post-Season of
little.
Hope launch, all that kind of stuff. We're also looking at the ones who are not the healers that were affected and are not performing to where we want them to.
You are one of the
and
subscribers of all
bringing
time.
some of those up. And Chalk is the first of that list. Chalk was a name that came up a lot in a lot of the Reddit threads and on Twitter, and we heard that feedback, waited to see what the data was saying.
Yeah.
Data supported a lot of that feedback. So Chalk's getting a very simple change and then a very spicy.
You don't see Chalk at all, so Chalk buff is fine.
Thunderstrike, this is the one.
Forever.
10 more base damage at all ranks. We know that things like this.
Complicated.
Honestly,
help warriors a
10
lot
base
more than I
damage
think they
plus
do.
the new blue buff,
and we felt like
he
there
might
was room
clear
for his damage to go up just a
crazy
tiny bit. It was
fast.
such a confirmable and
He might
easily
clear
hittable area.
really good.
Didn't want it to go too crazy.
Little
Yeah,
1-2
exactly.
combo.
Instead, we're doing something a little fun with Rain Dance.
I love
So
Rain
Rain Dance already slows in a big area, and attack speed slows in a
Yeah.
pretty big area, and now it will also power reduce in a real big area. Now, enemy gods within that area now have their
That's
physical or
annoying.
magical power decreased by 10%.
That's annoying for sure.
You've kind of got a catch-all now of not only am I really
Okay.
good against base attackers, but I'm also really good against ability
Yeah.
damage
It's
dealers.
annoying for sure.
Very good against teams that are immobile or want to stay grouped up. Chalk is going to do very well
Yeah,
against those teams.
fly
Oh,
in,
yeah.
rain, ult.
That is
Chalk gonna
strong
be-
for
he's gonna be
sure.
In there.
I love playing Chalk, and
That is
am
very good.
unbelievably
I
excited
can
to play some
confirm
Chalk.
from being on the other side of it.
Yeah, no, I
Chalk
mean
jungle,
that's
baby. That's what I'm about.
Chalk mid?
the real question
mid,
is,
yep,
is
sign
if
me up.
you
Time to see Chalk.
Tank
if
Chalk?
you
No, thank you.
axe
Damage
3,
Chalk? Yes.
Yeah,
does it double to
Sign me
20
up.
if you're in both,
All right,
like the
cool,
other
let's
stuff
continue down
does?
the
Because
buff
that
line.
would be
Camazot's getting a little buff.
Yeah, so Camazotz
Gross.
again was another character that was very heavily affected by the Season of Hope changes because
Yeah.
his whole kit is healing more or less.
Yeah, a little bit.
So we tried to find an interesting way to spice things up for Camazotz other than give him healing or give him damage. But that is going to start off with our spicy change, which is Screech. So before any god that you hit with Screech, if you got that reflection, you're going to be able to see it.
Entire
now,
team.
revealed to the whole team. So it's not just
Okay,
Camazotz
that's
seeing
kinda
things.
cool.
Everybody's going to be seeing things.
That's a utility
is
change,
not for
but
a
that's
short
cool.
It's 15 seconds.
Yeah, 15
It
seconds.
is for a long time.
That is for like this many, but like times 3. So
Yeah.
I like
It's a
it.
You
lot.
at home.
It's a lot.
Additionally, Vampire Bats, which is the 2, kind of hard to hit ability, but when you do hit it, we want to reward you for hitting that. So we're
That's a
increasing the
big
slow from
slow.
30% to 40%. And
That's a big
finally,
'em.
Devour, the leap, the cooldown is just going to go down by 2 seconds. It's going to give him a little bit more of that healing, a little bit more of that juke potential.
Yeah.
It's not the longest leap in the world, so people will use it just to juke out things for the iframes.
Yeah.
So just giving you more opportunity to do things like that is going to be a really nice
Okay.
change for him.
Gotta love the chance for more skill expression. Like
yeah.
again, that's what it's all about for me. I
Yeah,
love
I mean,
that kind
that-
of stuff.
those are
So,
decent buffs for the
excellent.
Kama.
Moving on to somebody else who's kind
For
of
sure.
revered for their healing prowess. Hell, but getting a bit of a buff.
Yeah, Hell buff here. I mean, Hell is one of those gods that, again, very dependent on her healing.
Yeah.
Not as strong as Afro necessarily with
Or
the
power
changes that she
debuffs.
received, but definitely a little bit closer. These buffs
Shock and
are
power
meant to
debuffs,
up
Hell
her
debuff
utility
up
in
from 8 to
terms of the
12.
stance attunement change, which is increasing that power debuff to nearby enemies while in light stance from 8% to 12%. Again, that's only once you reach max attunement, and
Yeah.
we've definitely seen a lot less players sitting in light stance for the majority of the time. So really just helping that bottom end a little bit.
Okay.
Obviously, the top end going up by quite a good amount as well, but
Yeah.
we don't foresee players sitting in this stance a ton. And then Decay and Restoration getting a little bit more base damage, just because Afro has been shifted to this more supportive style of kit. Hell staying a little bit more damage and mid.
Hell buffs
style
are a
of
hot
kit.
take.
Yeah.
That's a hot
Was
take.
lacking just a little bit of damage in that damage mid style.
Yeah, just the
For
slight
sure.
tune up to get it back on
There
track.
are some
Excellent. Well, I know Ishtar's not going to be a fan of this one.
boiling
Gilgamesh getting
lava
involved.
Man, that's
hot
like a
takes
double
on the
shot.
balance
I know,
this
right?
patch.
Well, Gilgamesh,
Boiling
he's
lava
not been too
hot.
happy for the past couple of patches. He's after his bit of a stint in the jungle, we haven't seen quite a lot of him, but we want to
Yeah.
encourage him to be a little bit more of a laner,
that's
and this
fine.
change might actually do quite a bit for that. So Sunforged Scimitar, that is one. When you activate it, does a little pulse around you, bit of damage. Now that damage is going to be doing 25%
Little Gilgamesh
increased damage
clear
to
buff
lane
plus
minions
the blue
only
clear buff,
on the
you
initial
know.
pulse. And that is not the actual auto attacks that
Yeah, not
follow
the
up.
swing.
It is just the initial burst that happens. That damage is up by 25% to lane minions only.
Got it. So kind of a good solo buff.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
not a jungle buff.
Not a jungle buff.
Not
solo
a jungle buff. A solo buff.
Got it.
Yes.
Well, talking about buffs, Cthulhu also getting a buff.
Yeah, Cthulhu, probably not the first god that you would think gets heavily affected by healing, healing going down.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of his teamfight utility, was getting into that ultimate and giving that big heal. With that going down, just went a little bit further than we wanted to in his stats. So increase the power reduction on Sever, which is the swipe when you're in the
Yeah,
ultimate.
the swing.
That protection reduction is going up. Again, we hit his utility by reducing his healing.
Yeah.
So giving him back some utility in a slightly different way.
Got it. Yeah, and that makes sense. You got to balance the
Don't
scale
think that's
a little
doing
bit.
anything for anything.
Excellent, excellent. Moving on, Charybdis also getting a bit of a buff, eh?
Yeah, this is just sort of, we're transitioning a little bit from our healing-related shifts to just general underperformers. So Charybdis, one of those.
One of those.
Unfortunately for her. She's such
Sorry,
a sweet little lady, but not doing too hot in the battleground, as it turns out. So when it comes to
I'll
what
help
she
her
actually
clear a little
needs,
bit.
Spike Shot is going to be having a decreased cooldown the more
Okay.
you level it up. So if you're maxing this first, you're going to be getting it more often, which means that this other change to increase the tide that you get from hitting splinters is going
Yeah.
to go up from 2% per hit to 3% per hit. So the more splinters you get, the more tide you're getting, the
little more
more
tide build
times
up.
that your spike shot's up, the more tide you're getting, you're going to be maintaining that passive a little bit more.
A good
A little
little-
bit more to
I mean,
also
that
contribute
won't
to
really-
that second ability as well.
That won't
Yeah,
really
good little
affect
rinse,
Cherry's
repeat.
viability.
This is one of those characters
It's not her
that
problem.
I've loved since they
Her
released
problem is
because I
just
love that triple
her
auto
abilities
attack
take
thing
too long to
going
go
on.
off.
So cool.
And they don't
Except
hit
when I
hard
don't
enough.
ever land any of them, and I'm like, 3 whiffs in a row. I'm gonna go back to base. So, whew, all right. Well, continuing on, we got a Starcat to talk about.
We sure do.
We got some buffs on
This
the
is
way
fun.
to talk
This is
about.
The
really
next
fun.
two
The next two are a little.
fun. They're very fun. So the next two gods are similar in their nature in that they are gods that have historically had moments where they have been absolutely dominant,
Yeah.
but also historically very much struggled in the vast majority of players' hands. They're difficult to play. They require a lot both
Yamoja,
mechanically
basically.
and build-wise in order to
Yeah.
know how to succeed with them. And so we wanted to make these changes as a kind of a new direction
Okay.
for us, and we're excited to see what the community thinks about these types of changes, because I think they're really, really exciting. So Serket in particular obviously has gone through a good amount of change, had her little shift around last year, has
Yeah.
not seen the success that we were really hoping for from that. We want to push her into a more clear identity,
Yes.
and one of the very unique things in Serket's kit is that she has an ability that can crit.
Yeah.
Very few gods in the
Sure.
game have something like that.
That's true.
We want to facilitate her being a crit assassin because she is so all in that she needs to get some payoff from that in order
Yeah.
to really make that type of build work.
We
But we know that giving free crit, specifically early game, is really, really it can
We've seen it
be
before.
dodgy pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It
We
can
found
get
the
dodgy very
solution
quickly.
to this
So
patch was
we're going
more
with something a little
crit?
spicy here, which is whenever you put a point into your ultimate. So
Is that
Last
what we
Breath is
thought?
now going to have a passive component that is not, tied to casting the ultimate. But for each point you have in your Last Breath, you gain some critical strike chance. This means that you won't have it at all pre-level 5.
Yeah.
You're not going to insta-clear your camp or anything like that. We've also removed a lot of the early crit, but then also introduced a way that crit is less likely to happen at lower percentages. It's
Yeah.
not a true 10% if you want to read the dev blog that we did forever ago
Yeah,
on how
that
crit
was a
is
while ago,
calculated.
man.
I encourage you to do so. But
Good read.
we think that something like this will give her clear, defined power spikes.
Yeah.
And allow her to not have to build a ton of crit.
Yeah.
In order for her to crit you.
Yeah.
We still want, if she's getting free crit and doesn't need to build any crit items, that's probably something that we're going to look at.
Yeah.
But if this allows you to just splash one Deathbringer, and then the rest can be, a Magi's, a Jotun's, these items that will allow you to do what you want to do. I think that would be really, really successful. So excited to see what players think.
Passive
and,
crits
specifically
in the
about these
crit meta,
passive components that are kind of level gated behind being able to put points into your ultimate.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. And like you said, a spicy change. Interested to see the build diversity that comes out of this and just how Serket goes on. But as any Smite fan knows, you can't say Serket without saying teleporting robot. So next up we have Janice.
Is that something that we say?
I made it up right now. Back
Fair enough.
please.
Yeah, fair enough, I suppose.
Well, we did talk about how they were similar, right? And how they fall into their similar, they take a lot of skill to really find success. And Giannis, that is Giannis's middle name, actually.
Yes.
Gotta be honest, not loving
Anyway.
this patch. Not loving it.
Same
Started off so
idea
strong
here
with
for
the
Giannis. Through
HUD,
space
you
and
know?
time, the
So
ultimate is
strong.
receiving a similar passive effect where every point that you put into Giannis's ultimate, he's going to get percent magical penetration equal to 8 up to 16%. And that will also contribute towards the cap. So
Yes.
you
He gets
basically
half
will
of
be
his
having
pen
half
by
of the cap,
existing?
more or less, for free once you level up that ultimate all the way.
Yeah.
Giannis is just a character that is heavily stat dependent.
Oh, yeah.
That character it is not a I hope, I'll get 10% CDR this game on Giannis. Like
You
if
need
you're
40.
getting 10% CDR on Giannis and losing a lot, that's almost certainly a big contributing factor.
You know why. You should know why.
But in order to get enough CDR, that is such a massive build cost,
Yeah.
that it really forces you
You
to
just buy
commit so much of
Sands
your build
Time,
that you're going to miss out
Desolation,
on
and
smarter
Bearded, which are
stats.
three of the best items
And something
in the
else that
game right
Giannis
now,
has historically really, really struggled with is killing tanks. Giannis has never, in his entire history, been a very
Been a
good
tank
killer.
shredder. Got
He
it.
doesn't do it very well. So we
built for that.
considered
Nah.
giving him CDR versus giving him pen, and CDR being a stat that you desperately need
Yeah.
and is so powerful on him felt a little bit riskier than allowing him to be better at this thing that he's never going to be really that good at.
I mean,
Like, even with
8%.
getting another 16%
Now that they
pen
changed it
item,
to 32, that's a
not
full
going to be
pen item
nearly
worth
as
of
good at killing
pen
tanks
at level
as,
5.
Poseidon.
That's a full
Scylla,
bonus pen
Nox,
item.
Yeah.
ESET. Like, go down the list. Every other mage is better at killing tanks than Giannis, even with this amount of pen. But it allows your build to be so much more flexible.
Yeah, for sure.
And require so much less that we hope that this will allow Giannis players to find a little bit more success and remove some of that tension. That build tension is really good and really interesting. But when there's no correct answer, when the tension is so great that you can't really fulfill your requirements, it doesn't end up feeling very satisfying because there's no solution. So hopefully this allows Giannis to find a build path that works for him and still doesn't make him ubiquitously great.
Yeah.
We understand that this kit, he can't be the best mage in the game, right? With that type of kit, it can't be that way. But we think this will make him palatable.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. And the change makes sense. What is a magical resistant cloak to a guy who can walk through a wall? So
Nothing.
Penetration. There you go.
Yep.
So cool. And that actually does it for our balance today.
We
So
really
thank you
didn't
so much
nerf
for tuning in for
crits.
that part. I made it sound like the
We
show
have
is over. That's
games where
because
7 out of 10 people are
basically dead on the
building
inside.
crit. And
So
we didn't nerf
super excited to
crits.
continue
We
moving
just
through the
gave
show. We have plenty
Serket
more to
more
show y'all.
crits.
Obviously, we haven't even seen the cool new god yet. And let's start off with
And we
seeing
took
some
10
of the
power
skins
off
you
of
can get
Blood
ready
Forge
for
instead of
with
the
the
attack
Lightweaver
speed.
update.
And we didn't
Let's
nerf the
go.
CERN passive. We nerfed his
Athena,
freaking
General
autumn
of the Oni
stance.
army. Though my
We nerfed
ancestors
Ishtar
were of demonic
1-1
origin,
for her
you
lane
will
clear,
see
but
no
not her
foul play from
1-2
me.
for the damage.
Warriors at once. Who might you be?
Another suitor attempting to garner my favor.
Very insulting.
Your soul belongs to me.
Very very tough. Man, that looks cool. I love that.
No more conformity. Let's create
That's fun.
a tidal wave of change.
There will be danger. I can
I hate that.
guarantee
Meowie. Yeah,
You're
no, I
not
get it,
worthy
but I do hate
part
it.
of my crew. It's a big one. Reel 'em in.
Beans, anyone?
Yeah, I knew that one was coming. Available in the baked beans chest is the worst thing that's ever happened to Smite. And I just had to sit through those balance changes. Wow, that is cool as hell. Jeez. That could be the coolest skin in Smite. Wow.
You will fear me.
Damn.
Who dares
That thing was cool.
disturb my slumber? Gaze deeply into my eyes, and perhaps I may find a use for you after all.
That new goddess, Ishtar. Super excited. We've actually, some of y'all, or a lot of y'all, hopefully, have seen some of this already. As we wanted to release some stuff early. You know, y'all were able to see Chel at first when we kicked off the season of Hope with the first update. And now that we've
Live
moved
reactions
into
within
our
COD,
second update
on stream,
we wanted to be
and
able to give you all
YouTube.
a little more, and we enjoyed getting to tease some things early because we've been so excited about releasing this character, this excellent kit that was worked on that we really couldn't help ourselves but to share some of this information. So without further ado, let's talk more about it with the designer. So Aggro, what was the inspiration?
Aggro
behind
design,
this?
shall
Man, I
we?
mean,
Okay.
Ishtar has just been such a big community request for such a long time because she is a huge deal within the Mayan pantheon. You know, so many
Absolutely.
really big figures there, but Ishtar really stood out. And then when you get into the Ishtar lore, you know, this is only the second god that I've been the point designer on, and so for Maui, it was like very clear. It was like, here's the stuff that Maui did. Here's what he's known for. You know, it's very easily translatable.
Yeah, his lore was the epic stories.
Exactly. With Ishtar, it was like, she's the goddess of the following 75 things. Like, she's
Yeah.
known for all of these things and is really important for all of them. And I'm like, we can't do that. Like, that is not really a possibility. And so this design process was really unique, at least for me, in that a lot of times we kind of have
I
this
did
very
think, wow,
set
she's the goddess
idea
of a lot
like,
of
with
things.
Maui, we knew we wanted him to use
During the
hook
trailer.
and be athletic. You know, like that was the idea. With Ishtar, it was like, what should we do?
Yeah,
You know?
what's the
and
path?
so initially not having that clear, I'm clearly going to do this part of her lore, really was an interesting and really fun challenge because normally it's come up with a couple kits within your band, but I had the opportunity to talk about, you know, here's a kit that's really focused on light, which is obviously the direction we went. Here's a kit that's more focused on, you know, medicine or like nature, and kind of contrasting those ideas. But I'm really happy. You go in knowing which kit is your favorite.
Of course.
The light weaving kit was absolutely my favorite because, you know, we have Neith, who's a weaver goddess. You know, Arachne is very close to weaving. But this idea of manipulating light and using that and kind of separating light out into their individual strands and then using those as your weapon was really interesting
You're
to me.
buttering my biscuit right
and
now,
felt like it
Aggro.
filled a
I want to
unique
see those
niche that we
abilities.
hadn't had even among the other weaver goddesses or you know, Ra, you know, sunlight and all that kind of stuff. Exactly. So I think that we always knew it was going to be a little bit, it's kind of a hard band to really nail down of like, yeah, she's using these colors as ribbons of light that she's then, you know, weaving through and weaving together. But I think it's a huge credit to the animation team and the effects team and the tech art team in order to really sell this character fantasy of you have all of these colors at your disposal and she is constantly in motion, just using all of these things in a different order every time, a different setup,
colors,
but always having
rainbow.
something to do. I think really paid off in a really fun, unique way. I'm very happy with how it turned out.
Well, from what little I've seen, that does appear to be the case, and I'm excited to share more. So as we continue to do new fun things on the show, Lermy, you want to take us in game?
Let's go.
Let's go.
That's the stuff right there. There she is.
There she
Ishtar.
is. Rainbow in the background.
Yeah, I mean the modeling team just.
I'm
gonna gush about
the ability
all the different teams who worked on Ishtar because,
icons
like I
are
said before,
cool.
like
So is her passive
the
icon.
designers work very hard on the gods that they're taking point on. Absolutely, it's it's months worth of work. It's a huge
so
focus.
Much work. Yeah.
But we definitely get too much credit for like, you did all of this. And I'm like, I didn't make Maui look awesome swinging on the hook. That was the animation team. You know? I didn't make Ishel's effects look great. That was Shane on the effects team. Like, it takes so many people to really get involved and make sure that it's feeling the way it turns
Oh,
out.
yeah, look at that
And
new UI too.
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out like
during
this for sure. But
Well, they
I think
all
she's
deserve,
got that
they all deserve
sexy
the
new
credit,
UI.
and let's show off their
Back
work.
in action.
Lermy, let's see this kit in action.
yeah, let her rip.
All
Lermy.
right, here we go.
Your end is here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would have killed him.
Yeah, shout
Wow.
out to that combo, by the way. You almost look like you've done that before.
Cool looking
Yeah,
abilities.
Only a couple
I've
times.
definitely gotten hit by that.
Very cool
little
aesthetic.
gray screen simulator combo there.
Oh yeah.
So,
Very
all right,
cool
well,
aesthetic.
let's dive into it one step at a time. We got to start with the basics, and by that I mean basic attacks. So,
Not like
Damn,
Maui,
those
where
look good.
we pushed the envelope a litble bit. Very standard.
except
very
for with the design, look at those colors.
well, yeah, of course. Visually, absolutely incredible. And I'm gonna say his name a lot during this, but worked with Shane from the effects team on Maui.
Shout out to
Was lucky
Shane.
enough to
Shout out
work with him again
Shane.
for Chel. I think that he just continues to outdo himself. This was always going to be a very visually demanding kit. Mages usually are. It's a lot less physical animation, a lot more,
yeah.
effects-driven stuff. Of course. And he really stepped up and I think absolutely went crazy on this god.
If there's anything that I feel like I can comfortably say about my coworkers here, it's that they're constantly setting the bar, and then the next time around, setting the bar again.
And
So
surpassing it.
it's like
Yes.
it's like they're building a ladder, you know. Every
Something
time
like
it's just
that.
another bar higher up. So
Yeah.
let's keep moving with the passive Rainbow Weaver.
Yeah, so we wanted Ishtar because she is this combination of two different goddesses, Goddess
Yeah.
I and Goddess O. And they have, Goddess I is much more benevolent, and that's where a lot of the medicine and healing and all that kind of stuff comes from. We
course.
wanted her to have some utility aspects
Yeah.
and some team play that is not just pure damage, but we wanted her to very clearly be a damage mid laner.
Okay.
Kind of think Baron Samdi, but less utility, more damage.
More damage. Got it.
And so her passive
be right up my alley.
is the Rainbow Weaver. So every time she affects any god,
Staff.
whether it be herself,
Wow, that's cool.
an ally, or an enemy,
Got it.
with an ability, she gains a stack, which is a color of the rainbow.
Cool.
And once you get to 6, which is the max number, you enter your passive state, which is, this beautiful staff, your
Yeah.
passive icon is
Bro.
lit up, all that kind of stuff. And whenever you have
She
your
looks
passive charge,
great.
your next basic attack will be wider, have no basic attack penalty, and deal bonus damage based on her magic power. So it's increased magic power on that next basic attack. And this is a passive that, we have a lot of mage passives that interact with basic attacks, like Agni and Nuwa.
Yeah.
But those are more
Very cool.
centered around either in Agni's case, basic attacking and then using abilities, or in Nuwa's case, all using your basic attacks to set up for your abilities. I wanted this ability to feel, or this passive to feel like I'm combining all of my abilities in this unique way every single time, and then when I enter my passive state, I just get to fling out this really quick little burst of damage and keep going in my
Yeah.
combo. And it allows you to, it feels almost like an ability
Yeah.
more
See,
than
fluid is
more
good.
than a passive. But
Fluid
I
is
think that's a
good
really
for
fun
me.
design
Let the whole
space to
kit
really
flow
explore are
together.
these passives that are really integrated throughout the kit, but then just have this one big burst effect.
No
and
weird
then you feel like
delays,
you've augmented
no
what
clunk.
you did in a really, really fun way. And the basic
Yeah.
just feels so fun to use. The animation team, this little spin they came up with, I think is absolutely awesome. And whenever you get to just toss one of these, and then when we get to the ultimate, you'll see how it interacts there. But it's pretty easy to quickly gain a lot of these because, as Lermy's showing, by hitting 3 Odins with this ability, you gain 3 stacks. So a lot of times with these abilities, we limit you to 1.
Yeah.
But we really wanted you to get rewarded for those big hits where you
Yeah.
get, I hit a big knock-up or whatever it is, getting close to that passive.
As a knock-up,
And then
I
how it
guess.
interacts with whenever you help yourself or help allies, I think really adds to the idea of this endless options along your endless color spectrum of ways to use your kit.
In the rainbow tapestry that is her combos and such, seeing you weave together those abilities with those auto attacks, it's going to be so cool to see people take
Honestly,
that
the
and
staff
adapt their
lighting
style
up
around
is
that.
pretty
So,
baller.
Really excited for that. So let's get into ability 1, which kind of has 2 parts here. Part 1 being Gleaming Blast, part 2 being Threads of Light. So let's start with Gleaming Blast.
Yeah, so Lauren, maybe we take off the no cooldown here to show show this one. So the AO1, if you would just fire it and not hit the Odin, it's just a very simple line skill shot. It is one of the lowest base damage abilities in the Mage class. It's basically, you can compare it to like a no corpse explosion.
With one of the prettiest
from Opwash.
Interesting.
Targeters.
Yeah, can we talk about this for a second? Oh my god.
Again,
that's
FX.
FX.
Oh
yeah.
no, it's supposed to be
Shout out
6
to y'all.
seconds.
So
They just have the
sorry,
lower
anyway.
cooldowns.
No, by all
on?
means.
Okay.
But you know, we have these abilities in the game that I really like. Abilities like Screech from Camazotz.
Yeah, of course.
That give you this very simple presentation of hit this very clear, easy to understand line ability, get something in return.
Yeah.
And I also think that something like Yamoja, where she has 2 different variations of the AO1,
Yeah.
that's super cool.
It is.
And we don't have that many instances of that. So kind of combining those 2 ideas, we came up with this Gleaming Blast into Threads of Light. So if you hit an enemy god with Gleaming Blast, your one switches to an entirely new ability.
Bro,
and
these
becomes
targeters are
An amazing rainbow.
fire.
the Threads of Light. This was Twitter.
Yeah.
On Twitter.
We might have shown this one on Twitter a little bit.
It is one of the coolest looking abilities in the entire game, and the idea being that she separates the colors into each of the 6 that she uses, and they kind of spin together and then all blast at once. And enemies in the point there, you can see in the triangle in the preview, enemies that are hit by all the beams where they converge take a little bit of bonus damage, but this is damage in that area.
Got it.
And then any enemies, you got to spawn an Ishtar bot. Enemies that are facing the orbs when they detonate are blinded. I believe it's bot shoot 14.
I hope that I am in the right spot for this. We'll see.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, there we go.
So it is not raw blind exactly.
Yeah, not exactly.
Raw blind is incredibly long. It lasts for 5 seconds, but it just fades out over time. We wanted to have something a little bit punchier, more like a, oh man, but then it's gone.
Yeah.
Didn't want to go with pure white light because we burned the retinas of all of our playtesters plenty of times. Hopefully, workers' comp covers the eye surgeries we need from that.
Odin's going to need some glasses, probably.
Absolutely. But it really does achieve this really fun effect where it is not like Loki AO2 that, is kind of a obfuscation more than
like
true
a partial blind.
This is the second true blind in the game where it is going to fully remove everything.
Cool. No doubt.
It is important to note that there are some differences between this and raw blind in that you can still you keep your HUD elements. That's something that Gods Made in 2012 are going to be different than Gods Made in 2023.
No.
I think this is the better way to implement the blind so that it feels like you still have some option. But overall, I'm really happy that blinds have been getting pitched. That's one of the top fan requests that we get all the time. When are we getting another blind? Shout out to my man F. Dot for every God brainstorm he was ever in with me. He pitched a blind for every single God,
one.
and I followed suit. And I'm happy to finally get one in here with Ishtar.
Aggro, hero of the people, champion of the people.
Nice,
You say that until people get blinded and they hate it and they're like, why did they add another blind? And you realize why we've done 2 blinds over 10 years.
Yeah, fair enough. So, well, cool. Let's keep the train rolling. Lunar Invocation. I think we saw this one a little earlier. Literally space and the moon, if I'm not incorrect here.
Yeah, so again, of the million things that Chel is associated with, she is very closely associated with the moon. That is very much a goddess eye aspect of it.
Cool.
And she has
Damn, that looks good.
in the same pantheon, right? Who is an aspect of the moon, moon goddess. And I was really thinking, like, it wouldn't make that much sense to not have any synergy with a Willish if she's in her pantheon using a moon ability.
Yeah, right.
She should be able to set up for a Willish, right? So
I hadn't even thought about it.
Yep, that was the whole idea behind this ability. So Ishtar places down a lunar summoning area, and it does nothing when you first deploy it. It fills to full. It goes from new moon to full moon,
which is
following
so
the crescent. Shout out to Ali from the animation team for making sure we were going the right way from right to left instead of left to right. And then once it detonates, it damages and knocks up enemies in the area.
Yeah.
And it will also heal any allies in the area. So
Okay.
that's where when we say things like affects an ally with an ability, you can see Ishtar places it underneath her own feet, and her Odin, she gains 2 passive stacks because she would have
Yeah.
healed herself.
Moonlight shines.
That's really cool.
It's not a huge heal. I would not she's going to be a lower tier healer in the assault tier list. She is not a tier 1 healer.
Not an afro.
No, not an Afro, Hell, or Raw.
Yeah.
But it is it's a small burst heal.
Small burst, like a
that is
Verity.
Nice, but not a core factor. Using
Yeah.
it for the knockup is really, when you can, that's going to be your stronger option.
Yeah, if you're like setting up, prepping for a team fight, you need to top off some
Her
health
ulti's like
pools,
a
you got
massive-
few seconds. Blow the heal, why not? But
Yep.
if you're
Felt like
if you're
a
getting ready
Gooby
to
ult or
contest
something
fire, do
on
like
her
the fire,
ulti,
you
too.
want to have that
I'm
up.
curious
You
about
wanna save
that
that for the offensive capability.
Exactly.
And she doesn't have a lot of defensive tools. This is one of her best defensive tools. If you're running away
I'm
and
running.
place it at your feet,
I'm running.
if you place it at max range and continue to run, it will really like pop right as you get into it. Or if you place it kind of like halfway between you and max range, you can really get it so that you are in it as it explodes.
Yeah.
And if an assassin or a warrior is basic attacking you, it will knock them up and heal you as you kind of run through it. You
Yeah.
can place it in your way out, and it acts as a very good self-peel tool.
Yeah, they really have to make the choice. Like, do I follow, take the knock up, and keep trying? Do I completely back off? Like,
Yep.
a lot of cool playstyle
cool.
possibilities. Awesome. So let's get into the third ability named Rainbow Crash.
Yeah, okay, so if she's a goddess of rainbows, right, and we're using a lot of light, she has to have a rainbow arc. Like,
course.
that was just a non-negotiable for me. From
Wow,
day
that was
one
a cool
of-
looking
of
ability.
selecting
This is the
kit.
best aesthetic kit
so
in
she
the history of
lobs out
Smite.
This
Without a
arcing
doubt.
rainbow projectile,
Without
which
a
again,
doubt,
looks
this is the
phenomenal.
best
Yeah.
aesthetic kit in
Oh,
Smite.
man.
Damages and roots
120
enemies,
gods
in
later
that
or
area,
whatever.
and then spawns these orbs of
Wow.
light that pop out. One for each of the 6 colors of the rainbow that we're using.
Yeah.
By the way, to get ahead of the 6 versus 7 colors of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv and all that kind of stuff, that was a long internal debate. We feel comfortable with the rainbow is an infinite spectrum
Yeah.
of colors, right? There isn't one number of colors in the rainbow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And if we are going to be interacting with the colors of the rainbow as much as we wanted to in this kit, the passive stacks, these orbs, the orbs on the BO1,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, it is so much easier for our. It just felt so much cleaner and looked better with 6
The moonlight
versus 7.
shines.
So I respect my man Roy G. Biv. I do. But we felt that this was the better one.
Yeah, and like you said, take the color picker, click anywhere, click any 53 spots on a rainbow, you're gonna get different colors technically.
Infinite.
So yeah, so going with 6, it's fine. It
It was the right decision for us artistically.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Man, it's
the
cool.
6 orbs come out here, and this is something a little bit different. So obviously, you've got Discordia that kind of pops these orbs out from
Friendly
her
target.
number 1, but those are damaging for enemies. These orbs do no damage at all to anyone. And enemies, in fact, Lermy, if you have Ishtar shoot her 3,
Okay.
This isn't gonna make anyone run away, so we're good.
yeah, you're good. You can really barely see them because they don't matter to
They're
you.
ghostly.
As an enemy. You don't have to interact with them. You won't absorb them, anything like that. It's for Ishtar and her allies because they gain movement speed upon absorbing these orbs of light. So again, going for that utility identity. Yeah, all your Odins are
No, I
now
freaked
stuck
it.
there. They've, I think
I'll
that.
fix it.
Oh, nice. There you go. Getting some of that utility and just tossing this out and having allies, try and run to these orbs to grab them, it has been really fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ishtar also gives herself movement speed on cast and then gets more movement speed on picking up an orb. So again,
All right.
no traditional movement ability, but giving her some good self-peel tools with being able to put the 2 underneath her feet and giving herself some movement speed here with the.
I dig it. I
And you can
dig
only ever
it.
pick up 1 orb, right? So you're
Oh,
not ever
heck yeah,
stealing
get her a
orbs
Doom
from your
orb
teammates.
too? Oh, yeah.
You can if you've
Zoom,
absorbed one,
zoom.
any further ones will pass right through you. So if you're right dead, right there, dead in the center, you
Zoom,
won't
zoom,
pick up a whole
zoom.
bunch of orbs all at once, absorb them
Got
all.
it.
You'll just grab one and and let your allies pick up the rest.
Yeah, well, man, not only is that ability so pretty watching all of those colors bounce around, but I like that all of the escape in this kit is built into how you utilize the other abilities. It's
Yes.
very
Exactly.
utility based. I think that's really cool. Again, I'm a huge fan of skill expression, watching people show off how they take a kit that could be perceived 100 different ways and kind of ebb and flow with what they think is best for their situation. It makes for some of the best watching.
Let's
and some
get
of the
to
best
this
feeling
ulti.
for Smite
Tell
play
me
for
about
So
this
really excited to
Kamehameha.
see so much potential in this kit.
And real quick, because
man.
you're affecting an ally with an ability, if you pick up an orb or your ally picks up an orb, that's a passive stack.
Passive stack.
So again, ways to get your passive stack throughout the game by affecting your allies, not just your enemies.
Excellent. Well, this ability being called a rainbow crash, really cool. Kind of feels like you're getting punched in the face by a rainbow. A little more daunting title for the ultimate, Great End.
And another gorgeous targeter.
Another gorgeous
my
target.
God.
Unbelievably so.
Yes, just 10 out of 10. Yeah, Great End. I knew that's what I wanted this ultimate to be called, regardless of what the ultimate ended up doing. Her name, in some translations, you know, her various names that she would go by, Great End was one of them. And like, that is so metal.
What
like,
a title.
That is so sick. Like, come on. Great End is just so sick.
Yeah.
And this ultimate has been unbelievably fun to use. So you go up into this channel. She's channeling this intense rainbow energy in that beam. It's a constantly ticking beam. You are freely able to move during this time, and I believe you do not have a backpedal penalty during this time. It
That's
also
gonna feel
instantly
so
charges your passive. And then there are two pretty unique ways to...
it's gonna feel so good to use.
There's two pretty unique things that this ultimate does.
Okay.
So it obviously damages enemies with each tick.
Yeah.
It will heal allies that you hit. And if
Love
you're
it.
healing an ally, then Ishtar herself will also be healed.
Okay.
And that's a missing health heal. So it's stronger the lower your ally is or the lower that you are. But
Great clutch heal.
don't want it to feel like a free drain tool if she's healing from damaging enemies, all that kind of stuff. It just ended up being really potent in the 1v1.
Love it.
In order to get the heal for yourself, you have to be selfless and heal an ally. But if you normally just channel the ultimate, it lasts for 3 seconds. And this little time wheel around the edge right there, right in front of where she's channeling it, displays your time remaining on the ultimate, which is very clear and looks great.
And very cool.
If you hit both an enemy and an ally with a tick, it doesn't count against your timer, so to speak, allowing you to cast this for up to a maximum of 6 seconds. So you get to double your ultimate duration if you can line up your beam. It is not as easy as it sounds like it will be. It does end up, you know, these ticks are pretty quick. They are a little bit slower than a noob assault, but still pretty fast. But with people moving around and all that kind of stuff,
That's cool.
but it allows you to make these huge game-changing ultimates happen.
Yeah,
but
especially in team fights.
you really have to get used to how it's going to feel, how it's going to line up, all that kind of stuff. But it's been really, really fun to use. It's been one of my favorite ultimates to play with in a long time. And the other
That's
thing that we don't
cool.
typically do, but I think really fits well in this ultimate, is that subsequent hits, normally we decrease their damage the more you get hit by something. But if she was able to just death beam through a team fight and get big tick, and then the subsequent hits were littler ticks, that wouldn't feel very fair. It doesn't really feel the fantasy. Instead, hers are increasing in damage the more you hit a target. And so each tick that you hit is going to increase your damage by a little bit. If you miss some ticks, it will start counting back down. So you can kind of think of it as like a damage increase tracker.
Yeah.
And if you're hitting, and then you just like miss a couple, it'll slowly decay,
Back
and then if
down
you start
and
hitting
back
again,
up.
you can start raising it
Interesting.
back up. So it really rewards those players who are able to
750
track
plus
really well,
120,
position
112%
really
damage
well. I mean, that is
without the
always a key
duration being
factor in Mage
boosted.
gameplay is your positioning.
This
This is me
character's gonna
telling
be
you,
fun
Mage
as
players
hell.
at home, stand behind your tanks. Behind your tanks, because look at this. This is good, right?
Just
you get
go
to,
and go
This
and
is
go.
you
good.
get to heal, you get to do more damage, you get to heal yourself, all that kind of stuff. Stand behind them. Put them in between you and the enemy, and you're going to find yourself a lot more
You'll be
success.
good to go, yeah. An incredibly relatable
That
ability, too. As a
looks
lifelong
like
gamer,
the
I find
most
longer I spend
fun
in some, the more
character
damage I
for
take
me
So,
personally
big
that
reach,
they've released
honestly,
in
very realistic
forever.
ability design. So
That kit
super
is
cool.
so
Yeah, that's, I mean,
far
we just went
up
over
my
a whole
alley.
bunch of stuff. What a beautiful
It's
kit.
ridiculous.
I've been doing the update show for a long time, and I've shown off a lot of incredible gods, and I'm, Atlas being my baby. But I have to give it to Chel. Oh, look at the rainbow. I have to give it to Chel. One of the prettiest hits I have ever seen. I mean, the colors are just so powerful. They stand out so much against, all the other colors that we have in the battleground. It's unbelievable to look at.
I know I've already shouted about a bunch, but one last shout out to Shane, the effects artist.
Shane.
I'm sorry
To
for
Shane.
every time he'd be like, hey, what do you think of this? And I'd say, make it more colorful. I'm sorry. I know that was a pain.
That's great
but
feedback.
it was I think it was really worth it. I think that her effects look incredible. Got to give a shout out to Allie, who was the animation point on this, but the whole animation team just did an
Shout out to
unbelievable
Allie, too,
job.
then.
Because for
Nice.
me, for someone like Maui, who's very physical in what he's doing, even though he's a magical damage dealer,
Yeah.
he's swinging, he's running, he's jumping into the air. For animating mages, I feel like it's a little bit tougher, at least for me to give that direction, because the animation time is so short, and it's almost always projectiles or deployables, and so a lot of it is conveyed through effects. But they found a way to really integrate her personality and her feeling into these really small windows for animation, which is really, really hard to do. So big shout out to the animation team. I think they absolutely were incredible. The tech art team, of course, Brian, the lead programmer on Chel, was the same programmer that I worked with for Maui. Was super happy to be working with him again on Chel. I think.
How about that?
He saved us numerous times on stuff for her. So big shout out to
Shelly
him.
definitely
And,
saved the
and
patch
to
for
Michaela,
sure.
KD on the
For
QA
sure.
team
KD, woo.
for
KD,
catching an
what?
unbelievable amount of things, as she always does, and making the process a whole lot smoother. So, tech art, animation, programming, concept, everyone.
Our
from top
last
to
hope,
bottom,
quite literally.
I think that, like I
Quite
said,
literally.
designers, we do a lot of work.
Wow.
We put a lot of ourselves into these characters.
Yeah.
But it is never anywhere close to just us. That whole team really does the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I mean, I get to show off all of these things, but that is my job. There's an army of people who do an incredible amount of work for all of this stuff, and I love the shout outs. I'm always there for it. So super excited. So as we do with God Releases, we have a couple variety skins to show off right at the beginning.
variety.
Crimson Light Shel going to be one right available.
Oh,
up
look at
front.
this art.
Yeah.
Hello, friends.
So cool. I mean, she's so in tune with nature, and
Is that an owl?
Jaguars in particular, a big part
Yeah.
of her lore.
Sitting
She's
on a snake like a couch.
Yep, she's got the snake headdress there. She's often depicted with a snake on her head.
Yeah.
But having this jaguar pattern, she
And the red.
in the lore, she births 4 jaguars that go to the 4 corners of the earth and hold it up there. So having that, I think, is really, really awesome. There as a nod to her lore.
That's super incredible. I also love the hair. I didn't say this in game, but she has the best hair. All right.
Yeah. So, and to clarify, because I've seen some people talking about it, the shape is because it is a clip that she is using there on the bottom in order to hold the hair in that shape. It isn't, just magically, which is well within our license,
could,
in my
yeah.
opinion, for her to have hair that can just magically hold itself as a goddess. But it is clipped in that
There's a
way
clip.
because it's a crescent of the moon.
For those of you who are looking for cosplay opportunities, there's a clip. You're good.
Yeah, you're good.
You don't need to learn magic. So next up, we have the Ascended Shel skin, part of the Year 10 pass.
This art is just,
That is
she's scary.
dominating.
Great end,
Are those
indeed.
people on fire?
Well, if they
Hey.
are, they deserved it.
Yeah.
Because she is the judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah, I mean, come on. This
Yeah,
is
bright
more
skins are
rainbow.
good.
just
Especially
so
for
good.
her.
We do rainbow goddess. with
Those
a
are like
rainbow skin.
actually like
Yeah.
vibrant
You could
colors
not
too.
have not done that. Double
Yep.
negative there. Sorry. Man, that is so great looking.
Yeah, it looks absolutely awesome.
Again, I'm just a fan of vibrant colors, Hard
Hard to not be.
absolutely excited for it. Let's check out the card art too. Just the plain old the default.
Yep.
Oh,
I say plain.
this
but
is
not at
so
all.
wonderful too. I just love all the little details, especially with all the background details. Like she has so many little priestesses just hanging out.
Yeah, and
doing
what
their stuff.
a contrast too, because I think that's an important character tidbit as well. The fact that she kind of pivots between rainbows, the power of healing, somebody who brings a sunshiny day and rainbows in the sky, to being the great end, to be
Yep.
like the rainbows.
It's
equally
crazy
have
that
the
they
power
can
to
make
destroy
this
you and
skin
everything
and
you
this
stand for if
goddess
it's
and
not
also
just.
Bimba
So,
Yaga.
absolutely incredible. And we also
Same
have some
company.
masteries we can see here too.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
In Mayan mythology, rainbows were
You know.
sometimes not. They weren't the fun, happy. Oh, great! It's a rainbow. It was like it was a
Oh,
threat.
it's
a
You know?
rainbow.
It was.
Yeah. Oh no.
This is a bad omen of like this could turn ugly at any point if
Yeah.
if that's what's necessary. So really playing up that idea, I think was really, really
Just
fun.
saying.
I can imagine. And yeah, now we get to see the masteries too. So
Yeah.
super exciting. And you know, while we're looking at the masteries, time for me to call attention to something. When Martikaros came out, we kind of did a little impromptu race to diamond thing just for fun. We just thought it would be cool. And there were some people that really took to that. Y'all, turns out Lermy is not the only person who guns for diamond right away. We have some really excited people who love to get in and get their hands on these new gods and really get the kit filled out, get their wins, and get that diamond skin as quick as possible. So we're bringing back the race to diamond with Chel, except a little more formal this time. We wanted to give y'all a heads up instead of just dropping it for fun. So when Chel releases next week, we will be having a race to diamond. There will be more information on our socials, so keep your eyes on that, like Twitter and such. But there we'll have a prize for people who make it to diamond. Again, all of the specifics will be in Twitter, so keep your eye out for that. But we will be doing a race to diamond, so prepare yourself, prepare the snacks, take a day off, and get ready.
Good luck. You're gonna need it.
Yeah,
You are
are
gonna
you
need
taking
it.
Tuesday off this time so you don't lose?
I don't take Tuesday off, and I got on the Marty list, so
That's true. No, Lermy is an unprecedented
Fierce
grinder.
competitor right there.
For sure. Good
So,
luck.
Awesome. Well, that does it. What a beautiful update show, literally, because of Chel.
Yes.
So super excited for all of that, for the balance, with some spicy stuff there, for G.I. Joe, for the new HUD coming back. So to end it, I got a few things I got to say first. One,
Say 'em.
PTS, you'll know it, you'll love it. There's so much stuff we want y'all to test out with the HUD coming back, with the new goddess. We have all the stuff we want y'all to get in and get your hands on. So PTS will be actually happening, pretty sure today, actually. For PC, though. For console, you're going to have to wait till tomorrow, but we're still getting it to you as quickly as we can.
Cool.
But
We'll
so
play-
that will
we'll
happen.
play
And
it
make sure to give
tomorrow
us all
then.
that feedback. We will be on the prowl.
do some.
All
We'll
of
do
the
some.
valuable feedback for all these changes, as we always are, because y'all
Some
are great at
PTS
finding things
action to
that
get her checked out for
sometimes we can't.
sure.
To continue going on, now here's a spicy thing, and we say
We'll probably
this for the
start
end
on
of the show.
live client and then switch
For
over
as
to
long
PTS
as I can
a
remember,
couple
and I've
hours
hosted
in.
these, the show has been on Wednesday. That's no longer going to happen. This is the last Wednesday update show. We're moving to Thursday.
Okay.
So we figure, it's
No
something
more
that we're going to
Wednesday
try
update
out.
shows.
We internally, there are a lot of ways this is going to help us plan and make a better show and get
Okay,
prepared. Like
weird.
our production people have always put in a lot of hustle for this show to make it look as
The
incredible.
poor
as it
bot
does.
won't know what to do. It's
And
been
we
10
think
years
that
of
it'll
Wednesday
help
shows.
us be more prepared, help them be more prepared, and hopefully all of y'all will be able to enjoy it too. And it's one day closer to the update release, so you'll watch the show, and then it'll be like 5 days until you get to play. So
That's so
super
crazy.
excited to announce update shows
Okay.
on Thursday, starting with the next update show. Keep your eye on that. And last but not least, to close up the show, I mean, we got to talk a little more about the balance, and we got two incredible people here to do it. So we will have the Dev Balance show coming right after the update show. So stick around if you have any questions or you want to get some more insight on the changes made.
All right.
Because we have two incredible people who are going to be talking about it with y'all.
Yep.
So
Answering questions.
yeah, well, thank y'all so much for the incredible show today.
Thank you.
It was really fun, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with y'all more in the
Well, so kind of a patch of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Good UI is coming back, / there's gonna be UI options. So that's great. The new goddess is one of the best aesthetic gods in the history of Smite. Plus, looks genuinely strong. So, it's always fun to play a strong god instead of a crabby god when they come out. So that looks good. So new goddess plus the HUD is cool. The balance was one of the worst balances I've seen in forever. For sure, the worst balance of this year. It was terrible. Like 80% of it was either like downright bad or confusing. So that was tough. And so the actual meta itself probably won't change outside of whatever that pen change does. The pen change will change the game a little bit, but kind of outside of whatever the pen change does, the rest of the balance doesn't really matter because the rest of it was dumb. They were like nerfing items that weren't being built and not nerfing crit, which is being built every game. I don't really understand what the thought process was on the balance this patch. Clearly dropped the ball on that front. But new goddess looks dope, and there's going to be, you know, the better HUD back, so that's nice. So we'll play the new goddess tomorrow on PTS. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support and have a Twitchin' day, y'all.